Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our EPALE discussion on the thematic focuses of 2021. My name is Gina Ebner from the European Association for the Education of Adults, EAEA, and I'll be doing the introduction to our discussion together with my colleague, Ola.
Yes, that is correct. Ola or else Alexandra Kozyra, also from EAA. So as Gina said, we're looking forward to discussing a little bit the upcoming themes now, but also basically until 4 p.m. on EPALE.
Okay, good. And you already saw, I think I have one bingo in the online meeting. My partner looking. My cat is over there, so if she walks past, I get
I
another.
hope that happens. It's always nice to see her.
Okay, let's have a look at the thematic focuses of the year. I think quite a few of you have already seen them because we've seen there are comments, and in a moment we'll explain how the discussion will work. But we have three thematic focuses. First one is work skills and life skills. The second one is digital transition. And the third one is social change for sustainability and digitalization. So these three topics we'll be discussing over the year. And those of you who have been with EPALE for a longer period, what is new is that we are going to discuss all three topics parallel over the year. So not a few months, the first one, and then a few months, the next one, but we will have the opportunity to discuss all of them. Now, what are we going to do today? Maybe Ola, do you want to come in and explain a bit?
Yes, exactly. So right now, Gina and I will just walk you through the topics a little bit. We also already had a look at the comments, and I think you will also see them at some point on the screen, and we'll be happy to comment on the comments. But most importantly, right after we finish this discussion, you are welcome to join the comments section as usual on EPALE, where you will be discussing the topics in more detail with Sara and Claudia from the EPALE editorial team. So there you are welcome to share more reflections on what the three topics mean to you and the working context where you are, but also maybe already brainstorm a little bit on what kind of content you would like to see, and most importantly, on what kind of content you would like to create.
Okay, so I suggest we're going right into the topics, and at the end we'll just summarize and tell you a bit more, because what we're really planning today is give you some food for thought to think about what you could share, what you can do. It's really about co-creating a contents. And please share your ideas, and then of course over the year you will have more opportunities. So let's start with work and life skills. We've already, I think, had some comments, but we'll come to them in a moment. So yes, here's the complete topic: life and work skills for empowering adults to learn and participate. I'll start with work skills. And I've already seen that has been raised. We are talking about changing skills in the workplace for different reasons. We are talking about work skills for people with low qualifications. We all know that this is more difficult. We are talking about things like transversal skills, soft skills and so on, which are all necessary. So another possibility would be to look at how, together with vocational skills in the workplace, so there is a broad range of topics that we can think of where you might have an input. We could look for work skills in small and medium-sized enterprises. What about life skills, Ola?
Yes, exactly. And I think throughout the past year, life skills was a big buzzwords. And at EAA we were very happy to see that, and especially that they are such a big part of the new skills agenda that was launched last summer. And I mean, there is so much to explore in the topic. I don't think anybody needs much convincing how important health education is, for example, but also how it relates to a myriad of other skills such as critical thinking, resilience, especially in the context of a crisis, but also media literacy. I mean, there's really, I think, a lot to explore here, and we're looking forward to doing that with you. And obviously, there's also the topic of environmental capabilities. That's also something that's we're willing to discuss with you throughout the year.
So there is that whole package of skills that most of us need for a successful, however we define, but for a successful life, managing all the things that are happening. Parenting, for example, is something that we might look in. I mean, all those of you who have been homeschooling your children will probably agree. And of course, work skills. So a very important topic, and we very much look forward to your contribution, your experiences, your projects, and so on. I think we have already some comments on that. Yes, here you can see. And that is a very, very important topic already, which is about skills mismatches. And the question is, what do you think are the main drivers of shortage? Now, I think one part is, and you can discuss them really, really well. One part, of course, is that society moves on, that there are new technologies, new needs, and that skills very often don't catch up. So let's think of a future scenario, which I find quite fascinating, because it's, for me, in a way, it's still science fiction. But if cars and trucks, lorries, don't need drivers anymore, what happens to all the drivers out there? So in a way, you will have to either retrain them or use them in a different way. But anyway, you can see shifts in economy, technology lead to a different need. I remember when suddenly the internet started being popular, we had a lot of discussions on how can we update people's skills. It's for many people, it's also an opportunity. There are new jobs coming up and so on. For other people, of course, it's a threat, because they are in danger of losing job. Okay, so that's my comment. Ola, do you have any more?
No, maybe just following up on that and what you said about people maybe feeling they might be getting redundant at some point, or feeling redundant. There was a lot of interesting content that was published last year on the topic of artificial intelligence. So do have a look on EPALE and dig in a little. And so I think there was a podcast and an input at the stakeholder conference. So remember that there's also a way to go back to what was published before.
And maybe, okay, we have another one. I just wanted to highlight, before we come to that comment, a policy point. So those of you who are more interested or also interested in policies at the European level, we have the new skills agenda, and there is a separate chapter on life skills. So chapter or unit 8 is on life skills, and I find the text very, very interesting, because it really touches on what Ola has been talking about. Okay, who should determine which work skills should be supported, learners themselves or their employers? Difficult.
That's a very interesting question. Yeah.
Yes. That is something we could probably spend already 5 blog posts on. So if you can think of something, my first reaction is that there is a third group, so learners, employers, but also trade unions. And there are in many countries very good agreements between the social partners on what should be learned. In an ideal situation, it would, of course, be a combination of all the groups together. Very often learners know very well what is needed. In other cases, not. So I think I would find it very difficult to come up with one answer to that. I think there are, as I said, at least 3, if not 5, or even more.
Mm-hmm.
Any more from you, Ola, or are you happy to just leave that for the time
I think
being?
I'm happy. I'm happy to leave that part to you, especially concerning trade unions. And which do you think is more valuable, social skills or professional skills? Oof.
Yeah. Again, it's very difficult to come up with a one-size-fits-all answer to that. I mean, if we think about you're going to have an operation at the hospital. You do want your surgeon to have perfect professional skills. Dentist, I have to go to the dentist next week, so I would. But of course, more jobs, as you've very correctly said, that need more social skills, better social skills. So again, I think, and they are good examples, and I think we'd be very happy to see the information on EPALE. So if you have experiences, please share them, where you can combine training for professional skills with social skills. I think that is a good way.
Exactly. And I think even the profession of a doctor that you cited is actually a very good example of how much you actually need social skills, at least to discuss what's wrong with your patient and to try to find out how to help them. So I think they just interact very much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good.
So
should we have a look at digital transition then?
Yes. Okay, let's move to the next theme. But again, as we've said, please use the topic to explore that over the next 10 months or so.
Exactly. Yes, and I think so the complete name of the theme is digital transition and the opportunities of blended learning. And again, I think that's something we've all had experience with in the past year, and so we've all been hearing and experiencing so much of digitalizing and digitizing our organizations and learning content and honing our pedagogical skills for the new environment. And so many new formats are being experimented with. Hybrid learning, not just blended learning. Remote learning is more of a topic now. So we're all very interested in discussing that with you. And then there's also the question of the digital gap, of the digital divide. So we might think that since now everything is being moved online, that suddenly it became more accessible to everyone. And the truth is that we're actually still leaving some people behind who might not have access to the right equipment. They might not have access to the broadband, to a good broadband connection. There's just so much in there that I think you all have experience with, and we'd be very interested in hearing more about that.
Another aspect that our EAEA members actually find very important, because we had a working group on digitalization, and I guess that's quite popular at the moment. I'm sure many of you have had discussions in your organization or with your students. Democracy and digitalization. I think that is a key topic, whether it's just about participation, the ability to participate in e-services or finding help, or but also when we take it further, issues like who makes decisions, how does it work with artificial intelligence, what does fake news, although hopefully that term at least is not as popular anymore, but media literacy. So we have a whole group that deals with how democratic can the digital area be? How can we enable people to participate? So that is an aspect we also find very, very fascinating and useful. So if we get thoughts, reflections about that, we'd be very happy as well. Do we have any comments from our participants on that area? Oh, yeah. Oh, yes.
It is of vital importance to have an effective learning by designing and providing professional development programs for adult education staff. And that's a comment from NSS in Cyprus, from Maria. I think we can not agree more, Gina, with that, and especially seeing as I think professional development opportunities were already scarce in our sector, and I think there are reasons to be concerned that this might continue to be the case. What do you think, Gina?
Yes, absolutely. We need, I mean, as you said, we need generally more professional development for teachers, trainers, but also staff. Regular staff in adult education institutions, and especially the digital area. In a way, there is, for example, there is a difficulty or maybe a prejudice. I think it's somewhere in between, that you don't have much interactive exchanges when you do learning or online. But there are ways of helping overcome that, at least partly. So that is a very good area to explore a bit more. But yes, professional development, whether it's using computer skills themselves, but also using good methodologies online, drawing the learners in is one of the key issues.
Yeah, and I think we've been also discussing that a lot, about how many professional networks were actually set up during the crisis last year to support teachers, and kind of in the hope that they still go on in the future. So we'll be looking forward to seeing your experiences with that.
We have another comment. At a time when we have become so digital, it is very important that as many people as possible learn about opportunities of free learning. Yeah. We are also talking about the key competence of learning to learn. And with digitalization, we have, of course, an additional challenge, whether it's for learners themselves, but also for teachers and trainers, how to use resources for learning. There are, for example, language learning. There are lots of resources out there, but you need to know how to find them, how to work with them efficiently, and so on. But yes, it's an opportunity. There are resources, but we need to know how to use them.
Yeah, and as far as I know, that's something that you might learn more about on EPALE this year. So something's coming up. I'm not going to say more, but do have a look. To address digital exclusion, support plays an important role, such as remote telephone counseling. Another important aspect to consider is the availability of content which is inclusive. Yes, and I think digital inclusion or accessibility of digital content is something that's extremely interesting, and fortunately, there's more and more attention to that. So. I think we discussed a lot the topic of barriers to learning in physical spaces. That's something that's grounded, very well covered. But who gets to access online learning, and why and how? That's something that I think is still yet unexplored. So I saw one comment in the comment section about, for example, using simple language in some of the digital content that we published. I think these are all very interesting things to explore. The digital accessibility of communications and of online learning.
Okay. I would suggest that again, there are all kinds of policy issues here as well. In education, we have the part on digitalization within the European education area, but there are also papers by DG Connect. So those of you who work or who are more interested in policy will find a large pool of resources. One of the last ones that has come out is the proposal for a green paper on aging. And you can imagine that here digitalization also plays an important role. I think the fact that older people also and especially need digital skills has been demonstrated quite well. So another area that we might explore either in policy or in practice. Let's move to the third topic. I'm looking at the clock and we have about 10 minutes left. So the third topic is, do we have our slide? Yes, here we go. Inclusive social change for sustainability and fairness. I think you will agree that there are lots of topics packed up in here. Let me go to the big topics first. I mean, especially when we talk about sustainability, there are some key issues behind whether we talk about the environment, climate change, etc., how adult education can work with these topics, can draw in learners with these topics. It might be an issue for consumer education. That's a topic that I find very, very interesting. I mean, how do we shop? How do we know? How can we judge what is more sustainable when we buy something? It might go in a direction. Do we invest something? What does it mean if I have a savings account? What is the money used for? So we have all kinds of complex topics. And I think what we would like to see in a way, I mean, of course, also basic skills and how that, but we have been talking and discussing quite a lot about change-oriented adult education. So adult education that not only reacts to things like digitalization to a certain extent, because we need more and we need to catch up, and we need to make sure that teachers, trainers, and learners don't get left out. But can we also have discussions and trainings and offers that help us have an impact on society and what's happening at the moment? So I personally, and I know Ola as well, find that particular subject very, very important. But I think there are some other aspects as well, Ola?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, yes, change-oriented education is such a big topic, and it will be really interesting to see what you would have to say about that and your examples. But I think generally the role of adult learning and activism, there was an interesting blog post last year on EPALE about where are adults in the climate movement. Obviously, we see Greta everywhere, which is great. It's great to see so many young people in the movement. But what happens with intergenerational dialogue and what is the role of adults in activism, for example, for gender equality or against ableism? There's just so many topics that we can explore this year, where I think you will also have a lot to say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And of course, we have the aspect when we talk about social change for fairness, where we talk about where we can also talk about social inclusion more in general. So a wide topic, as Ola also has underlined, with a lot of possibilities for you to come in and propose experiences from your learners, from projects, and so on and so on, but also reflections of what we could do as adult educators. Do we have any comments? Okay. Yes. Absolutely agree with that. Yes. It's clear that some of the topics, of course, overlap, interlink, and so on, and sustainability, fairness, and so on, are part of life and work skills, are part of digital skills. So an additional thing we can do is combine at least two of the themes or all three of the themes. So we're also talking about digitalization, but that also plays a role in sustainability and so on. So I'm happy to see that you're keen on discussing that. But yes, if you see overlaps, please go ahead.
Yes, exactly. And I think here it's also important to point out that in addition to the three topics that we're discussing, and as you said yourself in the comments, they are cross-cutting. So I think that's the advantage of looking at them throughout the year. So you are welcome to, let's say, mix and match. But it's also important to add that we are also taking the lens of democracy and access as a perspective. So you are very much welcome to look specifically at that in drafting, writing, posting your own content or suggesting your content for EPALE. So democracy and access when it comes to life and work skills and digital transition and social change. That's also something we would very much like to see.
Yeah. And okay, the issues to be discussed today are very important, but there are some limits. If member states have no real policies to foster them, the result can be poor. Yeah. We agree, of course, but I think for certain topics, partly because of the pandemic, partly because they can't be ignored anymore, I think doors have opened that were still closed, let's say, a couple of years ago. The Commission on the policy side, again, also talks a lot about not only the digital transition, but also the green transition that comes into the sustainability topic. But there, I have to say, not enough, but there has been a lot of movement in that area, and there are more priorities and objectives when it comes to green transition. So that does give us a bit of a possibility to also see at the national level what's going on, and hopefully there will be some movement.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, another comment.
Social inclusion will have to address more and more people since the middle class is gradually disappearing and sliding into deprivation.
That is a very interesting topic. I remember I attended a conference some years ago on that. You're obviously very right. That can pose a challenge for adult education. In many countries, the traditional participants in adult education are middle class. But what happens if that changes a lot? If, as you say, part of the middle class, or a larger part of the middle class, drift further down the social ladder, and a smaller number climb up, that will be a challenge for us, and that will mean a different way of working. But that is really also a very detailed discussion. But if you have reflections on that, I'd be very interested to hear that. Okay, any more comments? No, okay, no more comments at the moment. So please make sure to use the discussion today. We already said that at the beginning. It's really meant to co-create topics, themes, ideas for the rest of the year. We believe the 3 topics, including the transversal access and democracy, are excellent topics for adult educators because they give us a rich, I wanted to say meat, but maybe that is neither sustainable nor a good metaphor. So it gives us a rich food for further discussions. So I think for that, I hope we haven't. Oh yes, genau, exactly. So call to action. Continue to comment. You have until 4 o'clock today, Brussels time. Share your projects, contribute, think about what you might want to post, discuss in the next months. So for me, I would say we are stopping our talk and it's up to you to continue and bring your opinions and proposals in. So from my part, it's goodbye for the time being, but hopefully over the year we'll have quite a few opportunities to talk to each other, but also exchange comments under blog posts in online discussions, etc. So bye from me and Ola.
Absolutely, same from me. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we hope that you also have lots of other ideas on what could be included in the themes this year. So please now move on to the comment section and share your thoughts. So over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.